now from a legal perspective, as you know, we hired and retained a lawyer, Ari Kaplan, from Quispamsis out of Toronto. And as I indicated earlier, he is Canada's foremost pension lawyer. So basically, the coalition retained him. The government has obtained 4 legal opinions which support their action. So basically, what government has done is to ensure that they can go forward with this, even after putting in the legislation that they can't be sued. They got 4 independent legal opinions that indicate that they can pursue what they want to pursue. The coalition believes that the government's action is discriminatory and contrary to the Charter unless implemented on a true go-forward basis with contracts fully honored. So that is clearly the position of the government. Our technical committee has worked with our lawyer, and basically legal action actually is going to cost. And as our technical committee indicated, and there's no guarantee. It's basically a flip of the coin when you go to court. Okay? You have, hey Bill, how you doing? So it's basically a flip of the coin based on your arguments, so on and so forth. But remember, the coalition's position is very clear that this is discriminatory and contrary to the Charter. Now, legal action must be our last resort. So, yes, based on the legal advice that we've received from our lawyer, we can proceed, but we've got to proceed carefully, and it has to be our last resort. Now, from a financial perspective, we've done our fundraising throughout the last 6-7 months, and the coalition has raised through you, the members, $44,600 for coalition expenses, and those are everything concerning all of the paperwork, the website, so on and so forth, the regional tour, the advertising, even a computer, photocopying supplies, meeting space, telephone, and P.O. box. So over the last 7 months, we spent $19,800, and there's still $24,800 in the bank, which is going to disappear very quickly because of all the radio spots and the advertising that we're doing for these sessions. Legal action will be a minimum of $100,000 and very well upwards of $200,000 to pursue. And it's not like you go to court and you get it done. You gotta get a legal opinion. You gotta put in your application. You gotta go to court. You've got the appeal. And there's one process after another. And it is expensive, and guess where the money's coming from? You. It has to come from the members. Well, I say you, me, okay? It's from all of us. So when we go, if we decide, that is absolutely critical that everybody keep that in mind. Now, coalition operating expenses until September 14, so 2014, that's when the next election is, we anticipate between 40 and 60,000. So we've got about 20 in. We need naturally another $20,000 to $40,000, and we trust that through this information sessions that we're doing now, the 11, that we're going to be able to raise the amount of funds necessary. A lot of people have used the PayPal on the website. A lot of people contributed during our first tour. And people also sent checks in the last 6 months. But look at the expenses that we require the money for, and these are real. And by the way, you see incorporation costs, that is also a cost that we anticipate, because in our first tour, we were asked by a number of you, are we going to form an association? So, it is dry in here. So, guess what? I'm like the priest, or the reverend, or whatever you want to call him. And, oh, wait, there we go. I've got my supporters with the buckets. Those are not for you to throw up in, okay, please? As sickening as things may be, we require, oh, that's all right, it'll hold it, I hope. As long as we don't put any change in this, it'll hold it, okay? So you know where I'm coming from. I'm looking at $20 bills, so I'll be the first one to put my first 20 in. Oh, it's my last 20. So, yeah, it's going to go down. I'm not going to hold it. So what we're basically looking for is your assistance in getting some financing support for the coalition to operate. And I'm not Father Kennedy. I'm not that godly. Yes? Yes, you do. Anyone who wants to make a pension, make it out to Pension Coalition NB. It's right on the slide. It says Pension Coalition NB. We're not done the presentation, but we need the financing. So now with that done, I'll continue while we're raising those funds. So here's the next steps. This is where you come in. Before the question and answer period, there are two options to take. One is continue political action, including lobbying MLAs, media articles, demonstrations, and our legal process. Or coalition tries to obtain the best deal possible within SRPP or consider legal action against government. So let me explain the two of them. The first one includes the legal. Right off the bat, you go political and you go legal. The second one says the coalition, your steering committee, and the group of 4 or 6 will work with government to attempt to get the best they can, the best deal possible within SRPP. So, okay, understood? And you'll have an opportunity to express those opinions. So those are the two options, and basically your guidance is going to get us to do what you want done. So we need to hear from you today. So first of all, we're now going to go to question and answer, and then we have a process on how to get the direction from you, okay? Because we need to do this legally. We need to ensure that we have documentation. We can arrange to get a scrutineer that is prepared to travel, and we've indicated that there's a day that we've selected, which is the 26th of September in Fredericton at the New Brunswick NBTA. At the NBTA, and a group of us will gather. So if people want to be nominated from here and want to come and count the ballots, please do so. We're totally open. This is a transparent process. So when the ballots are circulated, you'll have 2 questions. First of all, you need to select one or select 2. One is, should the coalition continue to take the position that government honor the existing PSSA pension contract? That's one. If that's what you want, you circle that. Or, if you want, should the coalition attempt to discuss amended provisions of the government's proposed shared risk plan, then you circle that. The decision is yours. We are not taking any position. We have our personal opinions, and we're keeping our personal opinions. Then you have another question, number 3. And number 3 says either yes or no. So you need to circle a yes or a no. If in the coalition's sole view, either of the first two are refused or judged not sufficient, do plan members authorize the coalition to pursue legal action if judged feasible? So you need to tell us, do we go legal or not? Yes or no? Circle the yes or the no. Questions and answers.
Good morning. My name is Debbie McCormick, and I want to thank, first of all, the steering committee for coming this morning. It was interesting that the actuary mentioned that people were kind of befuddled, that they didn't know that we were going to be aging. Being a former public health nurse, Health Canada actually gave us statistics a number of years ago that if we could keep you alive till 65, we're going to guarantee you about another 20 years. Now that's a generalization, but I've been retired for about 30 years, or not 3 years. 30, doing this, I feel like I've been retired for 30 years. Let me tell you right now. Anyway, at the end of the day, that's what Health Canada, the stats were telling us, and that was a few years ago. So I find it difficult to understand why we weren't being more proactive in that direction. As most of you probably that know me well know, I do a lot of volunteering in the nonprofit sector. And in the nonprofit sector, we use the year before an election to lobby. We use it to send out letters. We use it to send out questions. What is your position on X, Y, and Z? And also, frankly, to be able to get our message out in terms of a nonpartisan, but our position on who we are, and what we value. And we value democracy here in Canada. We do not. We're not anarchists here in Canada. And what they have done to us is unfair and not reasonable. And yes, I understand the position that you've taken, but my passion in life is mental health, and I will leave you with this thought. I did speak with the Premier 2 weeks ago. I went to the barbecue, and I got up and I asked a question. And the question I asked is, did you look at transitional change in the senior population? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, there is no such population as a pensioner. I've done population health for years. We are senior citizens with a threatened pension plan. Okay? Yeah. And frankly, when I said to the Premier, did you look at transitional change in the elderly population and how it affects us? And did you look at anticipatory anxiety? Because if you look at some of the research now in stress and how it affects our brains in the senior population, it is not healthy. And finally, my husband was there. The minister, or not the minister, actually the Premier did acknowledge to the group that they had not taken that into effect. And the other thing that I haven't heard, and I keep saying it, what about our health premiums? When we did the presentation of the Southwest Caucus, I brought it up to Minister Fleming. I said I would imagine that our premiums are going to go up in terms of our health status, and his answer was yes. So if you think that we're going to start losing our benefits, guess what? Our health premiums are going to go up too. Anyway, as you can see, you know where I am. I'm a very strong political activist, so I'm hoping at the end of the day that we can start our own little ad hoc committee here in St. John and Greater St. John and move forward. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie.
My name is Ivan Ford, former mayor of the city of St. John. I spent 18 months working with the province of New Brunswick. The superintendent of pensions claimed at every meeting we attended that they could not touch the retirees. The province of New Brunswick has decided, if you paid attention to today's paper, it's a done deal. We're under attack and the government doesn't care. It's time for us to get a large voice and to speak up. Now, my biggest concern right now is the reduction of the civil service in the province of New Brunswick. Our actuaries told us any reduction would lead to another risk. The risk would be on the retirees to make up the lost revenues that were coming from the new people who are going to be working. And that assumption that they have made is based on a 50-50 split. If a retiree end is 60% and their end is 40%, there's 10% to be made up, and it'll be on our backs. It's time for the people in this room and across the province to make sure that they hold that contract that they signed with us on the day that we became a public service employee. The other concern is this. We had 8 options. We met with all of our bargaining groups. We sat down with the government. There was no plan to accept any one of our 8 options. We got down to the last 2. We had professional actuaries from Quebec, highly respected around the world, and the government decided, no way. We're going to use the city of St. John as a scapegoat, hold a gun to their head, and force them to take a shared risk plan. That's what's happened, and now they're moving on to the public service. That should have been an eye-opener to everybody in this province where the government was going. It's time to get rid of this government.
My name is Bill Ayer. I'm a citizen in New Brunswick and a retiree. I just got a little statement here, and then I'm going to switch to a question because we're supposed to ask questions. In 2002, I retired after 29 years of service to the province. My wife and I agreed to a defined benefits for deferred wages that I had earned through my career, and I was in non-bargaining, and I did build up these wages. We felt that our pension would provide us with a guaranteed benefits until our deaths. That's what we felt. That is the security, and security is extremely important. That's what we were looking for. At the same time, we took on future financial obligations at the time of our retirements and commitments which we felt would provide us with a satisfactory standard of living. As everybody in this room has done, you have banked your stream of benefits that you're going to get, and you felt confident that that stream of benefits would come to you over your lifetimes. That's what you have made your decisions on, and your futures are hooked to that, and so is your standard of living. Now, they're trying to take this piece of this stuff away from us. That's what is happening. The government of New Brunswick is now going to break their contracts, and that's what they're doing. If you had a debt, the government will expect you to repay it. And that's what we expect this government to do with us. We earned our deferred wages, and we want the government to be honest with us and pay us our deferred wages. That's what we want. Not only are they taking the wages, they are ordering and imposing these changes while that will amount to a plundering of our incomes and our lives. Not just our incomes, but our lives. They're affecting our lives. That's important. The shared risk pension program is an unproven regime. It is unproven that it's being forced on us, and it is being forced on us. We've had no input into this process. They've told us all you have to do is listen to us, and you will understand. We're not asking you if you want this thing. You're going to get it. There's a complete difference. So it is an unforced resume that's being forced on us when we have little room to alter the direction in our lives and the commitments that we have made as we are now in my wife and I are now in our 70s. Am I going to go out and get another job? No, I can't. And there is a significant impact on us, and that is important, and this government can't get it through their thick heads. Unfortunately, we feel that we have no alternative but to fight what the government is going to do, and do not feel that it is fair or necessary for us to try to settle or negotiate less than we contracted for with the government in the first place. We don't have to negotiate a damn thing. They need to pay us what they owe us. We do not believe that we are any different, not a little different. My wife and I, and thousands of other New Brunswickers, and I say thousands, they said 33 up here. That's thousands, people. That's a lot of citizens of this province that are being overlooked and dictated to. And thousands of other New Brunswickers that have been forced into the same corner. And that's what we've been put into, is a corner. And circumstances that we are in, that are in the same boat we are in. The actions that this government is going to do may ultimately impact up to 75,000 New Brunswickers, if you include their families, our families. Over 33,000 of us, take our families, you can easily get to 75,000 New Brunswickers that are going to be impacted by this. This is no small, governmental, pointy-headed, bureaucratic matter. This is our lives. The actions that this government is going to, they may impact us of equal importance to this. And this is important. This is not just a government budgetary exercise. Of equal importance is, what will be the economic impacts? They injure our population, our incomes. What will be the impacts on all of the communities in this province? And when we started, somebody said, oh, this is just in Fredericton. It's not just in Fredericton. We've gone all around this province. It's all around the province. These impacts, these economic impacts, if they injure the pensioners and the flow of money that we get, will be felt throughout the province. And it will go into the jobs that come from our wages. We have to go and buy cars. We buy all kinds of things. We don't go spend the money somewhere else. We spend it right here, the majority of it. That's important. And they will affect the businesses. Keep that in mind. People who have businesses are going to be impacted because we won't have the financial buying power to spend money. And that's important too. This is not just about government financing. This is about the whole of our society, the economics of our communities and our lives. And that is important. My question to this panel is, has the government of New Brunswick done have they conducted any in-depth financial analyses on what the impacts of this so-called SRP program are about to impose, and they are about to impose on us? Have they done any impact analyses and done financial analyses, what that's going to do to us? And have they done any financial analyses as to what this is going to do to the communities we live in? That's the question. Let me say, I do want to thank, again, everybody that I've met in this province, and we have wonderful people in this province, and I want to thank the coalition, and believe me, they have worked. I can assure you of that. And I want to thank this guy right here, who has worked tirelessly, and he's a very competent person.
Bill, you had two questions. One was, did the government do an impact assessment on what the implementation of this SRPP would be on the economy of the province of New Brunswick?
The finances of the people, of the pensioners, and the communities that they live in.
Okay, I need to, based on Robert and on Cyril, the answer is no.
I'm Christine Chase. I'm a teacher, a retired teacher, 2 whole years. getting in the second lease.
Congratulations.
Anyway, I was a little disappointed not to hear anything about the teacher's pen, because I heard some really good things about our pension, and hopefully we'll have some research on that. A little bit of trepidation going into this next election. And I guess what bothers me is that I keep hearing people refer to the government, and that's what they are doing. But governments change, and let's say we vote them out. We have a history in Brunswick of succeeding governments, rubber stamping initiatives of previous governments, from my perspective anyway. And I really am very disappointed. I haven't heard any big liberal voices. I haven't heard any NDP voices that's getting on our bandwagon. And I really want to know, is there a liberal or a NDP or here tonight who would pick up the torch and actually get some Telegraph Journal time, publicize something, take a stance, and lock themselves into supporting our coalition initiatives? That's my question.
I used to live with my grandparents when I was just a kid. And I remember watching them do their budget for the year. And they literally had it to the dollar for how much.
Sorry, but what's your name?
Brian Gallant. I'm the one that was encouraged strongly to come speak. I'm the leader of the Liberal Party. I remember thinking, literally to how much gas they would spend every week, to how much they would give for our, presents for Christmas and for our birthdays. And I remember thinking to myself, when taxes change, when gas prices go up, when all these things that can affect people bit by bit, hurt people like my grandparents when they have such a tight budget that goes to the dollar. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case for all of you, it may be the case for some of you, but the point of the analogy is the fact that when you retire with an idea of what you're going to have in terms of funds, in terms of what type of life you're going to be able to live, and you make some important life-altering decisions based on that. And I saw firsthand how that would be able to affect immensely a family and my grandparents. I want to start off by saying, you say that you haven't heard much, and I heard that someone asked, we have to be in the TJ. I actually took a full page op-ed about this in the TJ. Did some of you see it? All right, well, what I'd love to do, if the organizers wouldn't mind sending it out. I mean, we sent it out about 6 months ago. So if the organizers would send it out to all of you, I think it'd be very helpful for all of you to see what we've been saying. In summary, the op-ed was very clear. We think that there should be a judicial review. We think that it's incredibly important that there be consultation, and we think that it's important that the numbers be run by the Auditor General. And we maintain that. Ces choses-là devraient arriver. But listening to M. Blais, I think he makes some very good points, and I thank him for the work that he's doing. It's great that he's here today. I have a few other comments to add. When it comes to consultation, it's important to realize that a true consultation means that everybody has the information they need. You can't consult people and say, well, what do you think, if you have no idea what the numbers are, you have no idea what government's thinking, you have no idea what the plan that probably already decided is. So for consultation to happen properly, it's incredibly important that you receive the numbers, that you receive the economic assessment of what this could do, that you receive all options that were considered, not just the shared risk, other options that would have been considered. And if there weren't other options, well, I think that's a huge problem in itself. And I would also add that it would be incredibly important, I know M. Blais talked about this a little bit, but in fairness to him, it's on a PowerPoint, and he's throwing out numbers that he thinks would be the case, and I appreciate that he's an expert. But I think it would be incredibly important to find out exactly what would be the impact for government and for you and for everyone across this province if we had a go-forward basis model. And for those of you who are just meeting me for the first time, you're probably going to not like this part. I was a lawyer before. So a lawyer and a politician sometimes is a bad mix. And I can tell you that obviously one of the things that's very frustrating about our legal system, it costs a lot of money. And when you see the bucket going around this room, it reminds me of how sometimes the availability of our justice system is tough. One of the things, I'm not going to try and influence anything that you vote on, and obviously I'll respect what you guys do, and it's your decision. And so I'm not going to get involved in that. But one thing that I can do, and one thing that I will do, and one thing that I have been doing, is I think a judicial review would allow government to find out from the court system if this is legally possible or not. Now, they got 4 legal opinions. Well, I can tell you, working as a lawyer, legal opinion is a legal opinion. It's not the rule of court, it's not the rule of law. So a judicial review would save the government, I believe, a lot of heartache. It would finally answer the question, is this legally possible? And of course, and more importantly, it saves all of you a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. So I'm going to advocate and continue to advocate for a judicial review to be done to see if this is even legally possible. So you have my commitment on that. And last but not least, I do want to tell you that we will have members of the Liberal Caucus going to the other sessions. I actually found this very helpful. I took a lot of notes. I was standing up to take the notes though, but which is fine. Rick knew said that I needed the exercise. We took a lot of notes. It's very informative. We look forward to working with your coalition to find out more in terms of what's happening, in terms of what are the options. And of course, we're going to have members go to other sessions, and I look forward to find out what the rest of the dialogue will be across the province.
My name's John Cairns, and I'm a retired teacher. I just have one question. It has to do with the 3 questions that the actuary was asked that day. I'm surprised at all the meetings that I've been to, the thing that we're pushing is play it forward. My question is, why would he be allowed to ask those questions, and why did he?
Why did I ask the question? I just wanted to know, in my role, as I said, you know, it's not as a coalition person, said as a human being. Okay, I don't like wasting my time. Okay, so I want to make sure one of these things that the government wanted my role to be was to give a better understanding of what they were trying to do. Not to like it, but a better understanding. That was part of it. But I wanted absolutely not to waste my time. So I said, if you guys are ready to get into a discussion with someone, obviously you want your full guarantee, you want no change in your pension, there's no doubt about that, okay? But there are 3 elements to look at, and there could be others. There could be like the pensions that some of you are getting outside of the PSSA, the early retirement reductions. Governance, how is this one managed going in the future? Retirees are now at risk. Retirees should be part of the decision. Retirees were not at risk before. The government was managing it. So it's more like, I'm a technician. That's as simple as that. It's as a human being that I ask those questions.
Anybody else? Yes. Your name, please.
My name is Judith Minor Thomas, and I'm a retired teacher and have been for well over 20 years. And there is life after teaching. I wanted particularly to ask Mr. Galland, is he still here?
I think he's left.
Oh, of course. I'm also a political activist, but not of the red or blue. I wanted to ask Mr. Galland that if pending legislation does go through this fall, and there's an election next September, and the Tories are turfed out, will the Liberals consider rescinding that particular legislation if it does go through?
Okay, now that's a very interesting question, and since Mr. Gallant is gone, I would suggest strongly that you put that on paper and send it to him, and whatever letter you do prepare, we will put it on the website.
Ann Sears, and I'm a retired teacher. We're just wondering why we didn't discuss the retired teachers today.
The present SRPP plan that government is looking at implementing this fall is for the PSSA, the Public Service Superannuation Act. And what they want to do is repeal that act and implement the SRPP under the Pension Benefits Act. The teachers is next, and as our actuary indicated, He's been working with the teachers already. He's just started.
My name is Al Rosevere, and like I said, Auditor, he had a chance to look at the historical aspect of this problem, i.e., were there years when the government was not making the appropriate contributions to the pension plan? And I understand that didn't happen back even in the 70s and 80s. This is a long historical problem. And also, were there times when the government was, quote, borrowing money from the pension plan and imputing an interest rate well below commercial market rates, i.e., they were using it as a slush fund? So the question is for the auditor, can you tell us if you've observed that, and did you look for it, and if you haven't, could you go and look at that and see if that's part of the problem of why it's so much underfunded. We paid a lot of money into this plan, properly invested, it probably should have been pretty well funded by now. But I'd really like to know if there is a lack of fiducial duty by the government to manage and maintain those funds properly.
Thank you for calling me an auditor. I'm an actuary. I'm very sorry, sir. No, that's no problem.
I was a little nervous there.
No, that's no problem. If I look at what's happened in the past, could be, but not fundamentally. My role was to look into the plan like that. Right now, the government is saying that there's a large deficit into it. They're saying we can't afford the cost and the risk. Are the numbers right? And that's fundamentally my job. Then after that, it was much more into the understanding of the reasons, but not necessarily accepting the reasons. Your plan, I don't know the history enough. There's members of the coalition that have looked into that. Your plan, at the point in time not too far away, was basically fully funded. So your plan was in good shape. So whatever mistakes of the past could have been made, time had corrected those mistakes. Now, I cannot go beyond that. It's more like things started to turn extremely bad in your plan, early 2000s, and it's been continuing. It seems to be bad news after bad news. But of course, if the government had done all the things right in the past, there would be more money in your plan today. There's no question about that. But I don't think anybody from the coalition can give more information.
Would it be possible in your role, or an expanded role for you, to do that kind of forensic review of the plan? Because I know that there were times in the past when it certainly appeared that the government was not putting in their funds, and that they were borrowing money for government projects at below commercial rates, and that really reduced the amount of money in the plan. And that's been a source of problems over the years. I know that one time, NB Power was something like $400 million below their funding for their pension fund, alone on NB Power. Like, this was the kind of stuff that was going on, and that's, if they had kept those funds in there, and had done their job properly, they should have been well overfunded.
Okay, hello everyone. To answer a bit of that question, there's been articles in the paper, there's information on the coalition website that the public service plan in particular started in 1932. From 1932 to 1976-77, the government put in this much. So that's for 40-some years. In 1977, they started matching employee contributions. In 1996, I think they started paying off the unfunded liability, or maybe it was 91. In 2001, the plan was fully funded, so they stopped making special payments. They still made the normal contribution. And that lasted for 2 or 3 years, and then a deficit arose, so they started making special payments again. So yes, there were many, many years the government did not put in money it maybe should have put in. Also, I think it was prior to 1977, the government did used to borrow money out of Trust Fund Number 4, which was the Public Service Trust Fund. They actually borrowed money out of that and paid low interest. They bought municipal bonds with it. Now, the teacher's plan, it started in 1910. The teacher's pension payroll was always higher than the contributions going in. So it really never had a fund until a fund was started for the teacher's plan in 1976-77. Someone mentioned, why aren't we talking about teachers here today? I just will say that Minister Higgs was in the paper, and I believe it was in the Telegraph, and he said the government cannot go on paying $2.50 for every dollar a public servant puts into the pension plan. In the same article, if you kept reading, he's putting in $3 for every teacher dollar that's put in the teacher's plan. So there's a lot of teachers that think our plan's going to be safe. Well, if you look at the figures, I don't know how safe really a teacher's plan is going to be.
Are you going to be here for the teachers after they settle with the PSSA?
That's an overwhelming yes, based on the response. Yes, sir.
Just on the teachers, if I may, we have two people on our steering committee, Pam Campbell and Betty Smith, who do a very good job of liaising with Larry Armstrong and with the teacher group, Larry Jameson. I do that all the time. Larry Jameson and the teachers group. But right now the exercises are parallel because the issues are somewhat different, but we are sharing the same actuary. So we for sure are there for you as we want you to be there for us. And what happens for one is going to happen for the other, and we've got to be in for it for all.
Yes, Heather.
If we do, Bonnie, go through and they do put the legislation in, and we move to a class action suit, okay, could we then embrace, because my heart aches for the retired nurses under the CBE plan that had no voice whatsoever, along with the QP members that had retired. So could we embrace them and ask them to be part of, because they had no voice in the shared risk also?
I think anything's possible, Debbie, yeah. I think that we've been very cognizant of the fact that there was the Quinn case, which basically said that in that case the retired nurses could not be impacted. And yet, in fact, in the SRP, the retired nurses are impacted. We've toyed around with what do we do with that information, how do we do it. So it's still out there in part of our thought process, but we haven't forgotten those roots at all.
My name is Bev McDonald. I, as well, am a retired teacher. Based on the questions that the actuary has said that he has asked, or that's what I understood, I think that one of the things we need to do as a group is, I guess it's been my experience, is that we have to continue to put pressure on MLAs and make them realize that we're not just going to roll over and die. That's the important piece here, is that I think I can't thank you enough, or the members of the coalition, for taking this on and organizing it, because without that structure and organization, we just would have been voices in a wilderness. But since we have the structure, we have to utilize the structure. And the only way to really get them to sit down and answer the questions that have been asked is that continual pressure. Keep the mailboxes full.
Thank you very much. I'm Judy Kay, and I'm a retired teacher too. I think there's a lot of teachers here today, and we do support, and I've been at all the coalition meetings, and I'm a member. And again, I think having been through protests and strike and so on, I think that my question is, with the legislature open, are we looking at having any kind of opposition protest at the legislature? We know that the government answers to people, to letters, but also to public. I know Tracadie with the unemployment issue, they had a big protest and they got a program. The only place in New Brunswick, they got money. So I think we need to be visible at these meetings, but also at Fredericton when the legislature opens before this gets passed. As soon as we know if it's that day or as soon. I think, again, we've got the structure, and I think, again, it's through the political, and we know that we have that power.
Within the coalition, there is a demonstration committee that has been put together and have worked in putting together a plan so that the minute that we know that the announcement is going to be made in regards to the implementation of legislation in the House, that there would be a demonstration, and people throughout the province are getting ready for that. As a matter of fact, they're just waiting for the go-ahead.